Today I'm going to share 6 ideas of how to actually stick to your New Year's resolutions. I feel like the time always comes when it's almost a new year, we're in November, we're in December, and people are thinking of their New Year's resolutions, but you never end up sticking to it for more than a month or two. So I'm here today to give you just some ideas on how to possibly stick to it at least a little bit longer. Now, all these tips may not work for you, but you may take 1 or 2 of them and kind of implement that in the new year. There's so many factors when it comes to creating and sticking to goals, so you just have to find what works for you. My first tip is to set either very specific goals or very vague goals. I know that sounds like a bit of a crazy way to start the video, sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but trust me, just let me explain. Not everyone is the same. That means that not everyone is going to set goals the same, not everyone is going to achieve their goals the same. Personally, I find it easier to stick to a more vague goal. So if I wanted to study more, I would simply say that my goal this semester is to study more. And so if I know that I only study like an hour a week, anything more than that is good in my mind. And so if I'm able to study 2 hours a week, or some weeks I might study an hour and a half, but other weeks I study 3 or 4 hours. For me, that's more, I know that's more, and that's what works for me. But for some people, you may want a very strict goal. So if you know that you're only studying 1 or 2 hours a week and you want to study more than that, you might have to say, I want to study 3.5 hours every week. And you may time yourself with that, you may record your hours, you may do time blocking, whatever works for you to achieve that strict goal, because that just may be what works for you. Personally, why I prefer more vague goals is that so many goals are vague in my mind. Like studying, for example, I may not have a lot of studying or homework to do in the first week or 2 of school, whereas towards the end of the semester I may have more. And so saying I have to study 3 hours every week, well, what am I going to do in that first week when I don't have anything? But maybe instead of throwing all my syllabuses to the side, I actually pick them up and read them in the first week, so I kind of know what's to come throughout the semester. So for me personally, that's what works, but you need to find that strict or vague way of setting goals that's going to work for you in your life. My second tip is setting a time frame. So obviously when it comes to New Year's resolutions, the time frame is the year. So this year, it was going to be, my time frame is 2025, but for many people that is much too long of a time frame. It may be best, like for example, going back to studying, just set a time frame for the winter semester, like January to April. I'm going to study more in that semester, and then once that semester is over, I may come around, figure out a new goal that I have. It may be unrelated to studying, or it might be, just depends on where you're at in your life right now. I also find that helpful because if I did reach that studying more goal, maybe in the spring semester or in the fall semester, I can up it to even more, or maybe that's the time where I do set actual strict specific goals. So it all depends, and I personally find it easier to set shorter term goals, even though you can continue to set goals throughout the year. You don't have to set goals for an entire year every year, because it's not necessarily the best way to reach your goals. If your New Year's resolution is to cook at home more, maybe you start out by cooking 2 meals a week at home. And then it's been a few months, maybe it's time to reevaluate. Say, hey, maybe I can cook 3 meals a week at home, or maybe I can cook 4 meals a week at home. So I think it's always good to be reevaluating your goals rather than just having it in your head for the entire year. Yearly goals are really hard to stick to because a year is a long time. And so setting those different time frames can be a lot more helpful. My third tip is to set yourself a yearly theme. So this is actually a concept I found from a YouTuber named CGP Grey. I'll link his video down in the description. I won't go too in depth into this, but it essentially means that you set a theme for your year, or a theme for your set amount of time. So the theme can be anything, and it makes it a lot broader, and usually can make it much more attainable to reach your goals. So say for example, if I chose the year of growth, that's my yearly theme is growth. Maybe that means I say yes more, I do more cooking at home, I study more, I start going to the gym. I'm doing things that personally to me equal growth. And that may not look the same to everyone, and I may have to reevaluate, or I may pick a new theme later on in the year. But it's just an easy way to, if you're one of those vague goal setters, that can be really helpful. And as well as if you're one of those strict, specific goal setters, it may be helpful to take a step back and think of your year, or think of your time frame in a theme. So if you want any more information on that, I'll just link his video in the description. This is not my idea, but I just thought it was really helpful, and I want to share that with you. My fourth tip for staying accountable on your New Year's resolutions is to get an accountability buddy. I think it's pretty obvious what an accountability buddy is. I'm sure it's been said many times, but it essentially just means finding a friend, a family member, whoever, to help you stay accountable and help you stick to your goals. Say you want to start going to the gym 3 times a week, it could be very helpful for you to find someone else who also has wanted to start going to the gym, because you can hold each other accountable and go together. Find times that work for you to both go, and if you aren't able to make it that day, you're like, oh, I'm kind of tired, I want to lay in bed. Well, you don't want to let down your accountability buddy, and vice versa. They're not going to want to let you down, and you're going to keep each other on track. In some cases, obviously, you don't have to be doing the thing with your accountability buddy. They maybe are just checking in on you every few weeks, every month, or whatever, depending on your goal, saying, hey, how are you doing with this? Or, hey, I noticed you've been doing this lately. Is that part of your goal? Just having that person that you can trust to keep you in check, keep you on track with your goals. My 5th tip is to start a bullet journal or habit tracker. They're pretty similar. Usually habit trackers are in a bullet journal, but essentially if you don't know what a bullet journal is, it's like a notebook, but it has a bunch of dots instead of lines. And so you can kind of make it your own and kind of do whatever you want to keep yourself on track with maybe what habits you've completed that day, or maybe people do what books they've read throughout the year. And so it's just a great way to keep track of things. And so you don't need a full bullet journal, a full everything like that. If you want to just make that habit tracker and just say, every day I do this, you get to check it off that day, maybe make goals for a week, maybe make goals for a month, maybe make them for a year. But it's a really great way if you were one of those people that likes to actually get to check something off at the end of the day, or really see like visually where your goals are at. If your goal is to save money or spend less money, maybe you see how many no spend days you can do, or you try and go for a full no spend month or no spend year. And so essentially what that is not spending money. So maybe you'll draw yourself a little month, and say you didn't spend money that day, you'll give yourself a check mark. And if you did spend money, you went and bought that $7 Starbucks, that's fine, but you write that $7 on there on that day, so you can see how well you're doing with your goal, essentially. So that would be very much for visual people. I personally like that kind of thing. And then at the end of the month you can go, oh, like I did really good, I only put money on 2 days, the rest of them are check marks. So that can also be a really eye-opening way of like reaching your goals. Obviously you can do that with anything, but personally that's something that I really like, and if it's not something you've ever tried before, I recommend you give it a try. Okay, my 6th and final tip of the video is to give yourself a reward system. So going back to that saving money goal, say you didn't spend money for that entire month, maybe you've decided that when you don't spend money for a month, or you don't spend money for 2 months, that you do get to get yourself that Starbucks. So yes, you didn't spend your money, you did really great, but now you get that reward, you get that satisfaction from actually getting something out of reaching your goal. So many people will try and do a no spend month or no spend year, and they fail, and it's just, it's upsetting, and you're like, well, whatever, I've already failed, I'm just gonna keep failing. But if you have that specific attainable goal and reward, that can be very helpful. If you're someone who likes to go shopping a lot, buy lots of clothes, maybe once you haven't bought a new piece for 3 months, maybe you get to go shop for that jacket that you've really been wanting, or those shoes you've really been wanting. So essentially you have to set yourself a time frame and then set yourself what that reward is. Okay, I want it to be a specific reward. I don't want you to just say, oh, I get a reward after X amount of time. I want you to say, I get X reward after X amount of time. So you know exactly what you're going for, exactly what your reward and what your goal is. For me personally, lots of times, just for the day, if I really need to study that week, I go out that day, I do my studying, and if I'm able to study for say 2 hours straight, I get up, I go for a walk, maybe I go grab a coffee or whatever, but I get to go do something else other than study. I have that set time, I know that I get to go do that, and then I also have in my head whether or not I still need to go back and study. And if I do, I'll go pick a different spot. So say I studied at 1 hour, I study at one spot for 2 hours, I get to get up, I get to go, maybe I go with my friends for a little while, maybe I come back and do something like cleaning my room, because for me personally that's kind of a de-stressor. And so I come back, I do that thing that just lets me relax, get in the zone, and then I get to go back out to a new spot, a different environment, refill my water bottle, whatever, and I get to keep doing my studying. But that having that time in between gave me that little reward. So even just small things like that can be really helpful. From what I can tell, it seems like New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals are kind of less important in people's lives, and I think that's good, because yes, you need a goal, but to just always be setting a new goal for the year and then you fail it like 2 weeks in and you're just done doesn't really seem like a very good system to me. So if you can take any of these tips and implement those into your life, that may be helpful. You don't need to be at the start of the new year to implement any of these tips or any of these goals, because If it's the start of a new semester for you and you need help studying, maybe you bring in the reward system, or maybe you bring in the specific or vague goals depending on what works for you. And so I just want to put this out here. Yes, it's almost 2025, that's why I'm making this video, but I think this can be helpful to anyone at any time of year. Let me know down below which one of these sounds the most helpful to you, or which one that you are excited to implement in your next goal setting time. And if you have any more questions or any more videos you want me to make on these kind of topics, please let me know. I usually post vlogs and just kind of daily life kind of things, but if this is something that you liked, I can definitely do more things like this in the future. And if you like this, feel free to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next one.